Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's Friday again, and this time it's Parashat Ki Tisa. Now, no matter what I had planned to talk about in advance, we're at war once more, and this is a moment to really take a moment to think deeply and to discuss what period in history we have entered into since last Shabbat. Baruch Hashem, last Shabbat I was called up to Miluim, and I'm currently in Miluim, as you can tell. I'm just out for Shabbat, Baruch Hashem, to spend time with my family, which is a great bracha. We'll be going in as soon as after Shabbat as possible, as relevant. But this is a great opportunity to take note of a pasuk that really jumped out at me this week in our parasha. The word milchama appears in Parashat Ki Tisa. I bet a bunch of you are probably thinking, what, where, how? And the answer is, well, it's hiding in the middle of the story. Parashat Ki Tisa, famously, holds the story of the golden calf, where the Jewish people go a bit off the rails, and they lose focus, and they start trying to build alternatives to Judaism, or alternatives to Moshe Rabbeinu, to build a golden calf and say, Ele Elohecha Yisrael. They kind of go a bit nuts and trying to, in many ways, fill that void that Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader, has left because he went up to Mount Sinai. And he went up together with Yehoshua. Now, Yehoshua, as we know from the end of the story, from the end of the parasha, is the military leader of the Jewish people. He is the one that goes out to fight with Amalek, to fight the battles. He is the guy on the ground, the general, the leader of men, out there literally in the field of battle, doing milchamot Hashem, fighting the wars of God. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the spiritual leader. He is the guiding hand. He is the man on the hill who is in communication with God, who is setting the tone, the spiritual tone, the ideological tone, the vision of the Jewish people. When Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai at the beginning of our parasha, when he goes up to receive the Torah, Yehoshua ben Nun goes with him. And we'll see later on in the story, Yehoshua has a role to play. He's one of the spies that is sent into the land of Israel, and he later on has a whole book in Tanakh named after him, Sefer Yehoshua, where he leads the Jewish people after the death of Moshe, literally into the land of Israel, fighting the battles there on the ground, settling the land, and being the heir to Moshe Rabbeinu's throne. But in this week's parasha, we kind of meet him for the first time. Yehoshua ben Nun is, in our case, the sidekick to Moshe Rabbeinu. He is the Robin to Moshe Rabbeinu's Batman. He is the, you could say, the Noseh Kelim. He is the arms bearer. He's the second in command, the secretary, the assistant to the regional manager. He is the guy who goes up with Moshe Rabbeinu, but he doesn't go all the way. Only Moshe Rabbeinu can go into the actual fog, into the top of Mount Sinai, and have a deep conversation with God about the Mishkan, about all of the other halachot, in essence, basically most of Sefer Vayikra, but Yehoshua is left outside. And when Moshe Rabbeinu is coming down, after he hears already about Chet HaEgel, and God tells him, the Jewish people have sinned, go and deal with them and take care of this, and Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from the mountain. Vayifin vayered Moshe min ha'ar. He's on the way down. V'shnei luchot ha'edut bi'adon. He has the two tablets, the two luchot with him, ketuvim b'shnei v'hem, written on both sides. Mizeh u'mizeh ketuvim. And I'm skipping a bit. Vayishma Yehoshua et kol ha'am bere'o. He catches up with Yehoshua, and Yehoshua, meanwhile, is standing halfway up the mountain. He has seen Moshe Rabbeinu go up into the mountain, but he's not at that level, so he stayed behind. And yet he also can hear what's going down at the bottom of the mountain, but he can't really tell what's going on. And Yehoshua comes up with a great line. Vayishma Yehoshua et kol ha'am bere'o. Yehoshua hears all of the cheering and the hubbub and all of the, kind of the noise from the machaneh. Vayomer el Moshe kol milchama b'machaneh. And he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu is coming down, he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, you wouldn't believe this. It sounds like there's a war going on down there. And then the next line is quite cryptic. Vayomer, and he says, Ein kol anot gvura. I don't hear the voices of winning. Ve'ein kol anot chalusha, and I don't hear the voices of losing. Kol anot anochi shomea. All I hear is noise. Now, there's an interesting machloket between the different commentators, the interesting disagreement whether who is saying vayomer, who is saying the next line, vayomer en kol anot gvura, en kol anot chalusha. Is it Yoshua giving a report saying, I hear there's a war, but I can't tell which way is which? Or is it Yoshua saying, it sounds like there's a war, and Moshe Rabbeinu calming him down and saying, no, it doesn't sound like this, it doesn't sound like that, it's rather something else. And each one of those different perspectives takes this story in a very different direction. But I would like to potentially stick with the perspective of the Rasag, Rav Sadia Gaon, and that is that this is Yoshua. Yoshua is a military leader. He knows what battles sound like. He's in tune with what's going on. And he comes to report and he says, there's a war going on, but it's weird. And I can't quite make it out. Because I know what it sounds like when the sound of charge, and it doesn't sound like there's a charge. Obviously, he's assuming that the Jewish people is being attacked or not being attacked. It doesn't sound like we're charging against our enemies, and it doesn't also sound like we're retreating and saying, run away. Rather, there's something weird going on. This ability, this skill to be in tune with a war and to figure out what's going on is something that we see Yoshua here demonstrates. And later on, we'll see he is the man who leads the Jewish people into the battle, right? He is the man who literally leads the Jewish people to fight against Amalek. You come to say hello? Oh, Meital is here coming to say hello. Come sit with me. He is the one at the end of our parasha where he's fighting Amalek, very relevant. Hello. Obviously, connected to Purim that we just experienced. This whole idea of fighting the battle of Amalek, which we see Parashat, the very first Zachor, right? Which is here in our Parashat. Wait, no, sorry. It's not in our Parashat. It's at the end of Beshalach. But we saw it beforehand. And it connects very beautifully to this idea with this concept of Yoshua bin Nun fighting the battle. When Yoshua bin Nun goes out to war, he recognizes that the direction of war, whether we succeed or don't succeed, is up to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, the ideology, is the calling card, the direction in which the Jewish people goes. If Moshe Rabbeinu, as we know from the end of Beshalach, if he raises his hands, raise your hands. If he raises his hands, it says that the Jewish people would win. And if he put his hands down, the Jewish people would lose. And the Mishnah asks, what does that mean? There's a Yadav Shel Moshe Osot Milchama, and the answer is no. If Moshe Rabbeinu is raising his hands, the Jewish people look up to the skies, they look up to heaven, they remind themselves of God, of their reason, of their mission in life. And if they put their hands down, then they forget that and they're caught up in the day-to-day. Here Yoshua is asking the same question. Are hands up or hands down? Which direction are we going in? And I think that is a question that we have to ask ourselves whenever we hear the voices of war. Which direction is this going in? Baruch Hashem, we here are experiencing a hands up moment. You want to put your hands up? Your hands up. We here are experiencing a moment where we truly are seeing the Nisim. When we hear Kol Milchama, I think for the first time in a long time, the vast majority of the Jewish people is experiencing the positive success, Kol Anot Gvura, as we see Yoshua claiming in our parasha. We are hearing the success. Can you do success? Success, Baruch Hashem. Why? Because Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is guiding our hand. And even though Moshe Rabbeinu in our parasha and Yoshua are having to deal with a situation where it wasn't clear, where everything was very much in a fog of war. Maybe we've experienced that a bit over the last 2 years, where we're not always sure, are we winning, are we losing? Baruch Hashem, I think this is an opportunity for us to be incredibly grateful, to say that today we know for sure, Baruch Hashem, and I actually spoke to Rav Medan this morning, one of my mentors, my Rosh Hashiva, and he said that this period that we're living through now is equivalent to some of the biggest miracles that we've ever experienced in the times of the Bible and times of Tanakh. And I think this is an opportunity for us to be grateful to Hashem and to thank Hashem with all of the complications, with all of the sirens. We heard sirens. With all of the need to run to the miklat, to run to the mamad. Okay, which way is the miklat? Which way is the mamad? That way. With all of that need, I think this is an opportunity for us to be grateful that when we hear the calls of war in our parasha, when we're going to sit Bezrat Hashem tomorrow, where we're going to read, where Yoshua ben Nun is trying to listen carefully as a general, is this kol anot gvura or kol anot chalusha? We will turn around to Yoshua and say, this time with Milchemet Amalek, this is kol anot gvura. And with this, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And Bezrat Hashem, where we only see Yeshuot and Gvurot, על הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם.
בזמן הזה.
שבת שלום.